All right, it looks like we are at go time. Welcome to the second day of the CYVP convening. How is everyone? Can everybody turn on their screen so I can see all y'all? Please and thank you. There you are all. How is everyone doing? Let's see. Paul, is that LA? LA, all right. Pretty, very good. Last time I was in LA, I stayed probably 10 minutes from that stadium and I really wanted to go, but didn't have enough time to do everything there was to do in LA. So how did everybody feel about yesterday? Thumbs up? Good? Happy? Cool, cool. We have a very packed agenda today. We're gonna hear from Spokane and Center for Court Innovation today. One about equity and the next one about restorative justice. Anybody have any opening? First, I'll ask Leonora, any opening thoughts before we kick into gear?
Yeah, I just wanted to say welcome to day 2. And I hope, like you said, I hope everyone had time to relax after yesterday's meeting and was able to process all of the information that you received yesterday. I know LISC and everyone has a lot in store for day 2. So I just want, like James said, I want to encourage and remind you to keep your cameras on throughout the day. Just due to this virtual environment, we're really trying to attempt to maintain the same dynamic and engagement as if we were in person. So it's really good if you could keep your cameras on so we can see your faces. And that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any opening thoughts before we kick this into drive? All right, hearing none. Just a reminder, I put on the chat idea boards. I know we talked about that yesterday. Also, as reminders, we are recording this, so we'll have this up on Basecamp in the next couple of days, in case you all are interested or have other folks that you might know that would be interested in watching this. I encourage you guys, if there's folks that want to participate that haven't signed up, let them know in the next couple of minutes, or before this session or next session. Feel free to join, or they can watch it afterwards. And then finally, we're going to have a post-event survey. I know you guys were hoping I was going to say a post-event drinks, but alas, we are virtual, so I can't pass out the beverages. But we will have a post-event survey that I would love for you all to complete. We're really interested to get your perspective on things. Did you feel like you learned what you came in here to learn? What were things that you think you can bring back to your sites? I think that is kind of the measure of how these convenings are, is what you all get out of it. So we're really interested to make sure that this lined up with your expectations, and just trying to make sure that we're providing the best services and support for you all that we can. So with that, I want to introduce Nicole and Oscar from Spokane. They, during our initial calls, they were explaining to me the equity resolution that they passed in Spokane, and talked about the importance of that. And I think things like the equity resolution are more and more important. And unfortunately, it seems like these things keep getting kicked down the road, and there's always a lot of talk about how do we bring equity into our schools, but there's oftentimes not the action that follows with it. I was really impressed by the conversation that I had with Nicole, Rebecca, and Oscar about their work. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. But before we get into that, we're going to start our break-in session. And Rebecca from Austin, volunteered to talk a little bit about the equity work they are doing in Austin. So love to hear from you and what you all are doing in Austin, and hopefully other folks can share what they are doing as well in your sites as well. So Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hey, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yay. Okay, I'm using my headphones just to be sure. So I am our OJJDP grant specialist in Austin ISD. I'm working in the Office of Cultural Proficiency and Inclusiveness, which is housed in our Social and Emotional Learning Department. So we are an office that is operating through the SEL department. We do a lot of work around cultural proficiency, and we look really deeply at teachers, principals, leaders on campuses, and doing some of the inside out work that is needed to bring cultural proficiency into spaces and classrooms. It isn't so much dictated programs, scripted lesson plans, requirements on a classroom daily schedule. It isn't so much those things as it is the work that's needed for people to be in identity safe spaces. And when I say that, I not only mean teachers understanding their identity and how they are responsible for creating spaces where others who are different than them and who have different racial profiles are able to be included in their spaces. We look at a lot of different things. And one of the things that we noticed last summer was, if you remember, in June, after everything happened around George Floyd, a lot of districts and companies were putting out equity statements around that. And, we are, it would be anything. It could be, we're here to support everybody, and we are inclusive, and we love everybody. And there are all these different equity statements that were going out. And so when that happened in Austin ISD, and we were going to put out a statement, there were some people that they called in to, just look through it and make sure. And when we received those, it was more of, okay, so then show me the work that you're doing on your campus to be able to support this statement, right? Show me that throughout, in the last however many years, this has always been at the heart of what you do. And so that really helped to start a leadership pathway course for us for cultural proficiency and inclusiveness. And through that, we worked with teachers. We had a cohort for principals and a cohort for teachers, where we talked about who they were, how they identified racially, their own experiences. It wasn't so much just, I'm a Mexican woman in my classroom and I have students of, I accept everybody, or, the different things of like, well, kindness matters more, or, yeah. So it was more about, look at the lessons that you're creating for your students. Do your students see themselves in those lessons? Are your students, no matter age or grade level, ability level, language levels, are they able to say who they are and feel safe in the spaces that you create in your campuses? It really is a lot of inside out work that is required. And that doesn't always happen when we talk about equity work, right? We want to say, we accept everyone, we love everyone, and I don't want the conflict, I don't want this. And it doesn't necessarily need to be conflict, but it definitely needs to be eye-opening for people, right? To like start those conversations. And so that's just one way that we went about it. But really just in the last 10 years, our office has turned into kind of the go-to for everybody in the district. We've also started our Office of Equity, so we work closely with them and really across all departments in the district. And so whenever there's anything new, and I mean, just COVID in the past year has changed up a lot of the ways that we reach and teach students. And so in everything that we do, we talk about that equity piece. And we talk about, do students have access to things like internet and Wi-Fi? And no, they don't, right? And then we talk about it and we name it as an equity issue. And we say why it's an equity issue. We don't just say, that's not fair. It's more of, these are students in our district who don't have access because of, different socioeconomic status, different needs in the home. And this is why it's an equity issue. And this is why we want to be able to provide this support. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. James, is that what you were kind of thinking about?
All right, that's 2. I'm still under the 3.5 from yesterday, so I'm still good. No, that was great, Rebecca. And I think, how does this pertain to this grant program? And I think some of the things I hear is that, if the school isn't thinking about equitable access to resources, both in school and out of school, that can lead to transformational changes in young people as they progress. And then as they get older, I mean, we've all heard the horrific examples of teachers telling young people, you can't do this, or you aren't able to do this, or like, but why is that? And that's A, wrong, and B, like, the kids that we are working with are so resilient and so entrepreneurial that they just, it's ridiculous, some of the things that we hear. So, I'm glad that you brought up some of those equitable issues, both inside the school and outside the school. And so 5 of the 8 schools reported they do have an equity policy. The 3 that don't, I don't know if there's anybody that wants to share, how do they think that could influence their school around discipline issues, around young people feeling safe in those schools, and or even the ones that do have them, how does that help contribute to making a safe environment and safe climate in the school? So I don't know if there's anybody that wants to chat about either side of the coin.
And James, if I could just add a small piece, something that we're constantly being asked in all departments in our district, and even in the city of Austin, when we collaborate and work with them outside of the district, is, and I'm sure y'all have all heard it, is how do you measure your success, right? How do you measure success for your kids? How do you measure, how do you hold accountability for people to follow the equity statements and to do those different things? And again, it isn't one clear answer. It isn't one clear assessment that we look at. It's really everything. But we know that internet and Wi-Fi is an equity issue, and we know that housing is an equity issue, and we know that neighborhood schools are an equity issue. We have all these different ways to kind of measure and look at so that we can measure and show the success of our students. Look at the wraparound supports that we're able to offer, look at the mentoring services, who's checking in with the kids. All of those small little pieces that we do daily and we do really well are ways to measure success.
Great. Very good. All right. If folks have thoughts, throw them in the chat box over here.